Well, hi everyone, this is Evangelist Torres, and of course alongside me is Reverend Mike Bearden. Welcome to What's He Been Telling You Lately. We have a really great topic that we really want to talk about. We've been wanting to talk about this for a while, haven't we? But I think it seems like right now is a really good time to come up with it. What we want to talk about, if I can speak, is pastoral burnout, right? And so, there's a lot of frustration out there, and we know pastors that are burning out, and so we want to kind of discuss on this, especially if you're a pastor, maybe you started out for the first time. You know, when you start out, you get all these, you're very ambitious. And I've seen a lot of pastors, they get started, they got all these great big ideas, and they start working on the big ideas and never start phase one, and never really grow into that place to really get the guidance of the Holy Spirit as to each phase and the series of steps that it takes to get there.
Yeah, now don't turn us out, turn us off, tune us out. We're going to say some things that might strike some chords. Don't hang up on us. I'm going to tell you about that example in a minute. But really, it's been on our hearts for a long time. And if you've been following any of the series, it's all anchored on this question: what has God been telling you?
Right.
Or what has God been telling you? Depends on how you say the question and what really sinks in.
Yeah, exactly. And just like Mike said, we're not here to knock down a church or knock down pastors, because we're all ministers. And we've all experienced, that's one of the reasons why we're talking, because we've experienced type of burnouts in different areas of ministry. We've been around a lot of pastors that we've seen personally burn out, but we've seen a lot why they've been burning out. And so we want to take this opportunity is just putting together our knowledge of what God has shown us and use that wisdom to maybe help someone out there that's thinking of getting into ministry, or maybe you're a pastor and maybe you're going along and staying in the busyness of ministry, and maybe there are some things you're missing to hear what God is saying to you,
Absolutely.
And we can get too busy, and we can get caught up on the busyness that we literally start working on in our own power rather than the power of the Holy Spirit.
That's right.
So I think for me, one thing that I think, first of all, the question is, are you called to be a pastor? And that's the one thing. So how do we know what we're called to do? Well, Mike and I have talked about it, and it's, first of all, I think it's understanding the identity, your spiritual identity. And so I've read this before in Psalms 139, and this is King David, speaking here. And he's discovering his spiritual identity, and I don't think it was until that he really began to understand who he was and the very purpose of what he was called to do, and really became that once he understood that.
Yeah.
So there are some things, and I think that's one of the key components. We can get so anxious that we want to do something for God. Well, what is it? There's a lot of people not sure what they want to do.
Or they're sure what they want to do.
Or they're sure what they want to do
but it may not be what God wants.
Exactly. And that's why I think that's a real key component is, do you know what your spiritual identity is? Because I think once you know it, then you'll know the identity of the ministry that you're supposed to get into.
That's right.
Right? And God is all about teaching us how to understand His process. God's got a kingdom system, and God wants us to know what that system is, so that we can walk in that system, so we know the series of steps that it takes to get to that place of succeeding in ministry, in our calling. And so sometimes we get to a place where we want to call ourselves into areas that we're
self-proclaimed called.
Yeah, because maybe that area of ministry is very attractive.
Oh, sure.
So those are the things. So let me read Psalms 130. I'm just going to read a couple parts of it. Verse 13 says, "For you created my inmost being." Right there. For He created my inmost being. There's the spiritual identity. "You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise You because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." Now let me just go right down to 16, and it says, all the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to me. Now it comes right back to Jeremiah 29:11, where God says,
I know the man.
that's right, for I know the plans. Well, because he has it written in his book. You know?
It's not our book.
It's not our book, that's correct. And all the days are already planned out for you. Everything that you need to know, what you know, the game plan, he's got it there, and he wants to reveal it to you. First of all, he's the one that created what? Your inmost being.
And you remember, these verses are comfort verses.
Mm-hmm.
These are reassurance verses. These
Yeah.
are confident builders.
Right.
These should be the encouragement shots.
Right.
And you go, oh, thanks. I'm so glad it's not about me. And we're talking about identity, not just pastoral identity, but personal identity as well.
Right.
It all starts there.
It does, because without that, you're really not going to really know the true nature of the ministry you're supposed to be called to.
It's true.
And you'd be surprised where God takes you many times. I mean, for instance, for me, I've always worked as a musician. I've been a musician all my life. That was my passion. That's all I wanted to be. But you know, until I began to just give everything to the Lord, and then God began to deal with me, my spiritual identity, I began to discover my spiritual identity. Before I knew it, wow, I didn't know that music's not the only thing. You know, God says, hey, behold, I'm doing a new thing. Before it happens, I want to tell you all about it. You know, God began to start telling me all about it. And there was a time when I was playing for a while and just, and played worship, for a long time and understanding worship. And then one day when I really was seeking God, Lord, I want to be everything that you're asking me to be, but I need to take myself out of the equation. I don't believe I've done that. So Lord, you show me so I gave God the go ahead to just go ahead and do as he will, right? And so, and one day God said, out of the blue, he said, the Lord just pressed on my heart and said, okay, no more music. Sit in the pews, and I want you to learn how to worship me from there.
You asked him.
Yeah, I asked him.
There you go.
So I asked for it. So, and it was frustrating. I'm thinking, okay, I'm out for a few weeks.
Yeah.
6 months go by. 3 years go by. Right? But during those 3 years, as I really began to seek God, then over a sudden, your identity is revealed to everyone else.
I'm going to pause him for a second
Okay.
here. Did you catch what he said? He had his time in the wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
He said, God, whatever. And God said, okay, you're ready. 3 years. It wasn't 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. Like, okay, I really thought about it. He really opened up his heart. God said, I've got a time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not your time frame.
That's correct.
How many of all of us have been, okay, God, I wouldn't have chosen it. I wouldn't have desired it. But on the backside of the experience in the desert, we wouldn't change a thing.
Yes, absolutely right.
And so we've all experienced those, and Joel's just being vulnerable and sharing about his heartbeat and his passion for music, and God said, great, I made you, it's my passion, we're going to let you really understand what it's about.
And sometimes we are so attached to that passion that we have, it's really hard to give up. There's literally a piece of you that's so you think, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you that you'd be surprised. Because you know what? God understands that passion. Number one, in the first place, he put that passion in you. That was a gift that he gave you.
You created my inmost being, I think it says.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but, you've heard the term, what goes around comes around. Well, God brings that back around. And you know what? It's even greater than you would ever expected. And you get into more areas and opportunities that it brings all kinds of different possibilities.
Yeah, it's true.
And I think first of all is learning to let go, to let God show you your identity. And I think that's one of the key factors, that I think most people give a piece, but not all of it.
Oh, yeah.
See?
What was that illustration years ago? I only want an ounce of God. He's like, here, I'll give you this little piece.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta think about it. How funny is it that we really try to bargain with the creator of the universe?
Yeah, you're right.
I'm gonna give you a little piece. You realize you're all mine, and he doesn't get tired of that. He's just a funny guy.
Yeah, and I think he's just amused by what we try to bargain with him. Really? I'm like the creator?
He's like, are you saying that again?
So expect only a little piece. Expect only little results.
That's right.
And I think that's what happens, is that we get to that place of burnout that sneaks up on us.
Huh. Yeah.
Because we get frustrated. Because we haven't given all.
The surrender concept.
We had the surrender concept, exactly. You see, because that surrender has everything to do with the transformation that takes you into the new creation, for the new things, for the old things to completely go away, so you got all new stuff.
Yeah.
But you keep pieces of the old stuff, and you get a few little new pieces, and they don't quite fit with the old stuff. It's like you haven't updated anything, right? So you got something that's old and you got something nice, shiny, and new. It's like this right here.
Well, and the scripture is pretty clear, when he talks about trying to put new wine in old wineskins.
Yes, there you go. That's very true.
The old wineskin's old for a reason.
Mm.
That's why they need the renewal of our minds. Scripture also talks about.
Exactly.
I think that fits very appropriately with what you're saying.
Yeah. And so I think that's one of the key factors right from the beginning. You see, you've got to surrender everything that you are. I was just telling one of the statistics that we'll read, but I'll just share right now, it says that 1,500 pastors, because of ministry burnout, leave their ministry. 1,500 a month will leave because of pastoral burnout. 1,500 a month. Now, I don't know how true and how close that statistic is, but if you see it nationwide, that makes that's pretty,
And I've heard the illustration, and I've heard it used over and over again. The pastor up front will say, I've quit every Sunday morning on my drive to church. I resigned to God.
There you go.
And then I pull in the parking lot and I'm hired again. We're talking about something a little more serious than that.
Yeah.
We're talking about a departure from the calling on your heart. And what leads to that, this pastoral burnout we're talking to, we understand. We all get burned out. Mm-hmm. It's a fact of life.
Yeah.
We need to learn the warning signs. We have to be able to understand, and I think what Joel mentioned earlier was, is it your real calling? Mm-hmm. That's a great question to ask. Ask your friends and family. Ask anybody else. Is it what God is telling you?
Yeah.
Or is it what your friends and family are telling you? What somebody else is telling you?
Exactly.
Understand your identity. Understand that call that burns in your heart so that you don't suffer the burnout later on.
Exactly. And I like this because David says, fearfully and wonderfully made. But then he says, and your works are wonderful, I know that full well. God wants you to get into that place of knowing it very well.
Yeah.
That you fully understand the identity God's given you.
Mm.
And it's a lot more than what you could drum up for yourself.
More than you can imagine.
More than you can imagine. That's what he says, And so I think we ourselves are our own enemies, and we bring things upon ourselves in ways that burnout really sneaks up on us, So that's just one of those things.
That's right.
And another thing that I have written here is that sometimes we have the confidence in our own abilities and of the intellectual learning, everything that we've learned, and okay, I got it, I got all the information I need to do it, and we use God's word in making ourselves feel invincible. So I have a little example, like take Colossians 1:29. For this I toil, struggling with all his energy that he powerfully works within me. The question is, did you read over toil and struggling? And skip to powerfully work within me.
Wow.
So
I labor, I toil,
mm-hmm.
I struggle.
Mm-hmm. That's all part of the growth. That's all part of the process. But you know, no one likes pain. So if we can skip it, is there a shortcut that we can do? So we get into that place. We start reasoning ourselves out of those areas of toil and struggling.
I think that we have a generation in our country here of the 20-somethings that really reflects that. There's a sense of entitlement in that generation.
Yeah.
And even if they go to work, the mentality is that once something comes up that's a little challenging, they give up. And it's, you know, I'm supposed to get everything for very little effort. And we have to be very careful. You know, the next gen in church, we always try to reach the hardest group, that 20-something. Better understand who they are and how culture has formed who they are. And we have a whole generation here that is not anti-toil and struggling.
No.
But they're pretty thin-skinned. And if it doesn't come easy, they don't want any part of it.
Well, look at what technology brings.
I agree.
Right? See?
I'm not going to blame technology. I like technology.
Yeah, you like the technology, but they sure do go out of the way to make things easy, right?
It's true.
So that you don't have to work for it and try to read. You know, it's like put anything in there and you'll find it.
Yeah, that's very true.
Right?
Very true.
So the game of the time of taking research, doing real research.
Yeah, remember the old thing called the library?
Yeah.
We had to lift up a card and go through a catalog. And, oh my gosh. You know, it's like now it's just, boop.
That's it. So we get,
I don't miss
so yeah, and so that's a kind of a nature that's built in us, just as what you're talking about. And we adapt to that nature that affects everything, the way we think, the way we approach things, you know, exactly, it falls right into that category of that, you know, not toiling. And so, if they do toil, they toil for the big money and toil for...
Well, and let's be honest, even in church. I had the privilege of working at a mega church here in Southern California, and it's been said, even at our staff meetings years ago, they would say the average committed believer here at this church comes twice a month. Meaning actively participates 2 times. And if you look at other churches, that's kind of true. And you can blame sports, you can blame family, you can blame extra work, you can blame whatever you want. But it's not their attendance that I'm so concerned about. A lot of churches are, because if they're not attending, they're not paying.
Right.
But my concern is, I think that directly contributes to their spiritual growth.
Exactly.
I think you can say the average spiritual growth is twice a month. That we've created this dependency on families, on this next generation, etc. That even our spiritual growth is not one of toil and struggling and working through the growing pains. It's one of convenience. And now, again, not against technology, I love it. And I'm not saying you don't have to go to church. You can just pull it up on your iPhone. You can pull it up on any kind of tablet, etc. That's great.
Amen.
That is convenience, but again, we take that convenience and it's more of a bother, or we don't. It's much deeper than that. And I would just come back and just say, you know what? Where are you at? Does this technology, does it help you listen to God? We should have it. We have the ability. We can do this. Is it bringing you closer in your identity to, as in Psalm 139, David said, we understand our Creator. Because He loves me, He made me. Can we say that after all is said and done, that I'm closer to God than I was yesterday because of it all?
Exactly.